So this topic I've been meaning to get to for the longest time. And actually, it's two different topics I want to talk about when it comes to Carmelo and Anthony. Now, the first topic I want to talk about is the Nuggets. This whole long-standing beef between the Denver Nuggets and Carmelo Anthony. Now, I've seen people on YouTube talk about it, but I want to have a chance to talk about it, so I'm going to talk about it. My thoughts on Carmelo Anthony. Now, at the time, for pretty much, let's say from the time he came into the league up until probably, I don't know, maybe he retired, maybe some time before that, I wasn't the biggest fan. I never really was the biggest fan of Carmelo Anthony. When he was first drafted, I preferred LeBron. And yes, I was a fan of LeBron when he first was drafted to the league, like most kids are around my age was. But like I said before, I said this probably plenty of times before, so F what somebody else says. My fandom for LeBron, or liking for LeBron, changed slowly when he went to Miami, and it just dissipated once he left Cleveland the second time, went to LA. I had enough of them by that time. But anyways, I always preferred LeBron instead of Carmelo. But the disrespect that Carmelo has gotten from the team that drafted him is puzzling. I know Jokic has delivered a championship for Denver, but not to retire Carmelo's 15 is crazy. But instead, it looks like it's going to be Jokic that get that number retired first. But I just say it's quite unfortunate because before Carmelo Anthony was on that team, the Denver Nuggets, probably from the time they lost maybe Dikembe Mutombo, if I'm thinking back correctly, the Denver Nuggets were a sorry ass team. The last time before Carmelo got there, the last time they actually made it to the playoffs, couldn't be before Mutombo left. From what I remember, the last time the Denver Nuggets made it to the playoffs was the 94-95 season when he went 41-41. They got swept by the Spurs in the first round, and that team had Dikembe Mutombo, LaFonso Ellis, Dale Ellis, Marif Abdul-Rahim, I hope I said his name right. I always messed up their name. Jalen Rose was on the team. Rodney Rogers was on that team. Robert Pack, and I did say Dikembe was on that team. Cliff Livingston, all those people was on the team. That was the last time the Denver Nuggets went somewhere, and that season was turmoil pretty much because Dan Iso was fired mid-season. Yeah, that was Jalen Rose's first year. He was actually drafted by the Denver Nuggets out of the 94 draft. So that was the last time the Denver Nuggets went to the playoffs before Carmelo got there. So he pretty much, let's say this, he made the Denver Nuggets relevant again because they was just losers every year. Now, as I go back to that season, we all know Carmelo that season, some of us might remember, got the Denver Nuggets to the playoffs that season as a 8th seed at 43-39. And keep in mind, this was absolutely one of the toughest times to make it to the playoffs in the West because there were so many good teams like the Lakers, Timberwolves, Dallas, San Antonio, Kings, Trailblazers, the list goes on. Even Memphis. So for him to be a rookie and help get that team to a playoff, it's quite impressive. Now they would lose in the first round to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think the Timberwolves were the first seed that year. I think that was the year they played the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals and lost. I think the Lakers were going to lose to Detroit. But yeah, they lost to them in 5 games, to the Timberwolves in 5 games. The irony actually to that, because 20 years later it'll be the other way around. Who was on that team, the Denver Nuggets team? Now you had Carmelo, Chris Anderson, Birdman, Earl Boykins, Marcus Camby, Lene, Andre Miller, Ronnie White, just to name a few. John Barry, well, that was on that team, and they couldn't get that team to anywhere the year before. And Carmelo actually finished second, and pretty much from the time Carmelo was on that team, 04-05 season, playoffs, they would lose to the Spurs, which I think won the championship that year. They was the 7th seed. The next season, 3rd seed. They actually got an upset. I don't even think that was an upset. I think back then the seedings were different. I think if you won your division, you automatically got a higher seed, which is weird. I think that's how it went back here, because I think the Clippers had a better record than the Denver Nuggets, but they would lose to the Clippers in 5 games. That was 05-06 season. 06-07 season, there was a 6 seed, but they lost to the Spurs again. Still tough Western Conference that time. And then the 07-08 season, it was an 8th seed again. They would lose to the Western Conference champions, Los Angeles Lakers. They got swept. And then they improved big time. It was 54-28, second in the West. And they lost in the Western Conference Finals to a very good Lakers team in 6 games. And then I think that might have been his last season. They lost in 7 to the Utah Jazz as a 4th seed. And I think this might have 2010-2011 season might have been the last season. Nope. The year before that was the last season. But he was still make playoffs. So the 09-2010 season was the last season Carmelo was on there. And they bowed out in 7 games to the Utah Jazz. But there was lots of turmoil even during that time. I think the reason why some of that probably might happen because the way Carmelo left going to New York. But for him not to have his jersey retired, that's crazy to me. And that they gave his jersey to Jokic, no big. This is not a dig on Jokic. Jokic didn't do anything wrong. It's more to dig at the organization. Now, who knows what happens in the future? Maybe some things might turn around, but seeing how some of these organizations do to these players, just recently, as you all know, you had the whole thing in Chicago with the fans booing Cross and his widow. Not so much his widow, but Jerry Cross himself. Knowing how that went down, everybody trying to blame it on Jordan, even though Cross, if you guys watched the Last Dance, Cross was also beefing with Scottie Pippen, so it's not all on Jordan. But anyways, you don't want it to be that type of situation with the Nuggets, but I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. It's just like both one won a ring for this team, put them back to being relevant again and winning the ring, and the other put this team back to being relevant, putting them somewhat the NBA on notice, putting the Nuggets back on national television, making them somewhat of a contender in the late 2000s. And then he got to get some credit for that. He just can't act like Carmelo never exists. But it is what it is. But I just thought, I'm thinking so many mixed thoughts on this whole situation. Yeah, he probably shouldn't have got the number retired. I don't know how. Well, realistically, I think Jokic is going to get 15 retired, and that'll probably be it with the whole situation. As far as Carmelo is concerned, at this point in time, it's better to move on. Maybe he might get it. I don't know about that either. I was about to say, maybe he might get that number retired at the Knicks, but I don't think that's going to happen either. So, I don't know what's going to happen with that whole situation. Maybe he might get lucky. Maybe cooler heads might prevail. Who knows? But anyways, this is my thoughts on that whole situation. But I'm not done with Carmelo yet. There's a part 2 dealing with Carmelo.